Imagine waking up tomorrow with $1 billion in your bank account. Sounds like freedom, right? No stress, no worries, no limits. But here's the twist no one talks about. Most billionaires don't wake up feeling free. They wake up feeling driven, restless, and sometimes even more pressured than before. Because the truth is, becoming insanely rich doesn't just change your lifestyle. It rewires your entire psychology. The way you think about people changes. The way you see time changes. Even the way you define happiness starts to shift. And that's where things get interesting. Because at the highest level of wealth, money stops being the goal. It becomes something else, a tool, a weapon, a scoreboard in a much bigger game. A game most people don't even realize exists. You see, billionaires don't just work harder than everyone else. They think in ways that can feel almost alien. They make decisions that look risky, even crazy. They sacrifice things most people would never give up. And sometimes they operate in a world where emotions take a backseat to outcomes. So the real question isn't how do they make money? It's what kind of mindset does it take to reach that level and what does it cost? Because once you truly understand how the ultra-rich think, you might not just see billionaires differently. You might start seeing success itself in a completely new light. And trust me, some of what you're about to discover is not as glamorous as it looks. What if I told you the moment someone becomes a billionaire, money actually stops exciting them? Sounds strange, right? But think about it. If you already have more money than you could ever spend in 10 lifetimes, what's left to chase? This is where the mindset shifts. At the highest level, money is no longer the goal. It becomes a tool for something much bigger, power. Take Elon Musk as an example. He didn't just stop after becoming rich. Instead, he moved into industries that shaped the future: space, artificial intelligence, global communication. Because for people like him, the real thrill isn't buying things, it's changing how the world works. This taps into a deep psychological drive called the need for control and influence. Billionaires don't just want to succeed inside the system, they want to reshape the system itself. That's why you'll often see them acquiring massive companies, influencing entire industries, funding projects that affect millions of lives. And here's the part most people overlook. When you start thinking in terms of power instead of money, your decisions change completely. You stop asking, how much will I earn? And start asking, how much control will this give me? That shift is subtle, but it's powerful because it turns money from an end goal into a means of domination, legacy, and long-term impact. And once someone starts thinking like this, there's almost no limit to how far they're willing to go. Here's a brutal truth. A billionaire would rather lose money than waste 1 hour of their time. Sounds extreme, but that single idea explains almost everything about how they operate. Most people try to save money. Billionaires try to save time at any cost. Think about your average day. Small decisions, random distractions, endless scrolling. Tasks that feel important but don't actually change your future. Now compare that to how someone like Jeff Bezos thinks. He doesn't try to do more in a day. He tries to do less but better. In fact, he's known for making only a handful of major decisions daily. But those decisions, they can impact billions of dollars. That's the difference. Billionaires don't treat time as something to fill. They treat it as something to protect, multiply, and weaponize. They aggressively eliminate anything that doesn't create long-term value. Meetings that don't matter? Gone. Tasks someone else can do? Delegated. Decisions with small impact? Ignored. Instead, they focus only on what psychologists call high-leverage actions. These are moves where one decision can change everything. And here's where it gets even more interesting. They don't think in days or weeks. They think in years, even decades. While most people ask, what do I need to finish today? Billionaires ask, what decision today will still matter 10 years from now? That shift alone changes everything. But there's a hidden downside. When your time becomes that valuable, you start disconnecting from normal life. Simple things like waiting in line, doing chores, or even casual conversations start to feel inefficient. And over time, that creates a gap. a gap between how they live and how everyone else does. Because when every second feels like an investment, you stop living in the moment and start living only for the outcome. Let's be honest, normal levels of effort don't create billionaires. That might sound harsh, but it's real. Because behind almost every ultra-rich person is something most people try to avoid. Obsession. Not motivation. Not discipline. Obsession. The kind where switching off feels impossible. Take Bill Gates in his early days. He didn't just work hard. He would code for insanely long hours, sometimes losing track of time completely. Not because someone forced him to, but because he was consumed by it. That's the difference. Billionaires don't just chase success, they get pulled into it. Psychologists often compare this to something called monomania, an extreme focus on one single goal. And interestingly, it behaves a lot like addiction. You get dopamine from progress. You crave the next win. You ignore everything else. Over time, this creates a powerful loop. Focus, progress, reward, even deeper focus. And while this can produce incredible results, it comes with a price. Because when obsession takes over, balance disappears. Relationships start to feel like distractions. Rest feels like wasted time. And anything unrelated to the goal becomes irrelevant. That's why many billionaires sacrifice things most people protect: social life, health, emotional stability. But here's the part most people don't see. Even after they make it, the obsession doesn't stop. It just finds a new target, a bigger company, a new industry, a larger vision. Because at that level, it's no longer about meeting success. It's about not knowing how to live without the chase. And once you reach that point, you're not just building a business anymore. You're being driven by something much deeper. Here's a question that might make you uncomfortable. What if becoming extremely rich slowly changes how much you feel for others? Not instantly, not intentionally, but gradually, almost invisibly. At normal levels of life, empathy is natural. You understand struggle because you've experienced it. You relate to people because you live similar realities. But for billionaires, that reality starts to disappear. Take large business decisions as an example. Someone like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos might make a decision that affects thousands of employees at once. Layoffs, budget cuts, restructuring. For them, it's often a logical calculation. Numbers, efficiency, long-term survival. But for the people affected, it's emotional, personal, life-changing. This creates what psychologists call an empathy gap. It's not that billionaires don't care at all. It's that they start seeing the world through a different lens. A lens where scale matters more than individual stories, where one decision can impact millions and focusing on each person becomes impossible. Over time, this shifts how they process emotions. They prioritize outcomes over feelings. They focus on systems instead of individuals. They detach in order to make faster, clearer decisions. And sometimes, that detachment is necessary to operate at such a high level. But it comes with a cost. Because the more you distance yourself from everyday struggles, the harder it becomes to truly understand them. And the more success you gain, the easier it is to forget what it felt like to have less. That's the hidden trade-off of extreme wealth. You gain control over the world, but slowly lose connection with it. Let me tell you something most people will never admit. The biggest opportunities in life usually look like bad decisions at first. And that's exactly where billionaires live. While most people are trained to avoid risk, protect what they have, and play it safe, billionaires think the opposite way. They don't fear losing money as much as they fear missing out on something massive. Take Warren Buffett as an example. During times when the market is crashing and everyone else is panicking, he's often doing the unthinkable, investing even more. Why? Because he understands something most people don't. Risk is not just about what you can lose. It's about what you might never gain if you hesitate. This mindset is known as risk asymmetry thinking. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" they ask, "What if this works beyond my expectations?" That single shift changes everything. Billionaires are willing to take bold, calculated risks again and again. And yes, they fail, sometimes massively. But here's the difference. They don't see failure as the end. They see it as data, feedback, a necessary step towards something bigger. This creates a powerful cycle. Risk, failure, learning, bigger risk, bigger win. But there's also a darker side to this mindset. When you become comfortable with high levels of risk, you can start underestimating consequences. You might take bigger bets than necessary. You might assume you'll always recover. And sometimes that confidence can backfire, because at that level, the stakes are never small. They are massive, life-changing, world-shifting, which is why this mindset is so powerful and so dangerous at the same time. Here's something most people don't realize. For billionaires, success is not just something they achieve, it becomes who they are. At a certain level, winning is no longer about money, status, or recognition. It becomes personal, deeply personal. Take Steve Jobs as an example. He didn't just build products. He built an identity around perfection, innovation, and control. Everything he did reflected that identity. And that's exactly how many billionaires operate. They don't separate their work from themselves. Their business is not just what they do, it's who they are. Psychologically, this creates a powerful effect. It builds extreme confidence. It strengthens belief in their vision. It allows them to push forward even when others doubt them. But at the same time, it creates pressure. Because when your identity is tied to winning, losing doesn't feel like a normal setback. It feels like a personal collapse. That's why many billionaires struggle to slow down. Even after reaching massive success, they keep going. New companies, bigger risks, larger goals. Because stopping feels uncomfortable, almost like losing a part of themselves. This mindset also affects relationships. They may become intense, demanding, or overly focused on results. Not because they want to hurt others, but because their entire identity is built around progress and achievement. And here's the hidden truth. When winning becomes your identity, you don't just chase success anymore. You depend on it to feel complete. And once that happens, walking away is no longer an option. Before you click away, ask yourself one honest question. If you had the chance to think like a billionaire starting today, would you actually take it? Because now you've seen the full picture. Not just the luxury, not just the success, but the mindset behind it. A mindset built on obsession, extreme focus, calculated risk, and a constant need to win. At first glance, it looks powerful, and it is. But it also comes with trade-offs most people never talk about. Less balance, less emotional connection, less ability to switch off and just live in the moment. Because when your brain is wired to always look for the next opportunity, the next move, the next win, peace becomes harder to find. That's the hidden side of extreme success. And this is where things get real. You don't need billions of dollars to learn from this mindset, but you also don't need to copy it completely. Because the goal is not to become someone else. The goal is to understand what works and decide what you're willing to sacrifice for it. Maybe it's discipline. Maybe it's long-term thinking. Maybe it's taking smarter risks, but not at the cost of losing yourself. Because at the end of the day, success is not just about how much you gain. It's also about what you keep, your time, your relationships, your peace of mind. So the real secret isn't just thinking like a billionaire. It's knowing when to think like one and when not to. And that decision, that's what truly defines your life.